see you again, Bob.
Yeah.
How are you?
Well, all right.
Yeah.
Very busy. Lots of things going on.
Yeah.
As usual.
Yeah.
Really. But things all right with you?
Yeah, I'm fine. Yeah, sure.
Mm-hmm.
And you've come along with some things to talk about today.
Yes. Sort of kind of an instinct rather than a fully formed idea.
Yeah.
But I suppose if I was to start with this kind of feeling that I've got too much work to do,
Right.
and constantly feel as if I'm kind of running.
You feel very busy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Seem to be driven by this idea of trying to find space in the diary when I can have a rest.
Right.
But there never seems to be
Yeah.
one.
You've got a very full diary.
Yeah. You know, all the stripes
Yeah. Yeah.
are all filled
Yeah.
in.
Yeah. You've talked about this before, haven't you?
Mm.
You know, your workload and having a full diary and so on,
Mm-hmm.
trying to find time for other things.
Mm.
What's new about the situation now?
Well, new things have come in. I mean, what's happened is that rather than we recruited last year an extra person and thought, oh, this is good. We've got an extra pair of hands that will help to spread the workload. But of course, what's happened is that the extra person's come in, but that's generated extra work, and there's 3 people now,
Right.
which in theory would have been better than 2 people, but the work's increased also because of having the 3rd person. I don't know if there's some kind of mathematical law which says that you take on an extra body and suddenly the work increases.
Yeah.
But that's what's happened.
Well, there's more admin, isn't there? More organising to do.
Yes, yeah, but we've started to sort of run some new programs. I mean, that's part of it, and that's increased, and so there are more people about which need kind of servicing and so on.
Mm.
So, and I don't see any sign of that getting any less.
So you generally feel a lot busier,
Yeah,
as if you haven't got any time to yourself or to do the things that you really want to do.
yeah. It's the sort of frustration of not having the time to just kind of stop and think for a bit sometimes.
Right.
I think that's what I'm missing out on.
Yeah.
Is
Time to stop and think.
It's kind of sounds like a whinge session, doesn't it? Really, but
Well,
it's kind of there's always work. You sort of
Yeah.
come in and you think, oh, I've just cleared the desk, and then you come in and there's another pile there.
Yeah.
You know, kind of gee, thanks. There's another load.
Yeah.
It's more coming over the horizon.
Yeah.
And sometimes I feel the need to just kind of stop and say, let's just think about the longer term. Where am I going with all this?
Right.
But don't seem to be able to, and that's creating a tension
Yeah.
in me. I
Constantly
think.
trying to catch yourself up, are you, and catch up on the workload? And
Yes.
Get
Yeah.
your desk cleared.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And you can't see that changing in the foreseeable future.
No, you kind of
It feels a bit endless and relentless.
yeah, a feeling of tiredness and this kind of search for space when I can just kind of breathe a little bit and perhaps think. Those gaps that I somehow used to be able to manage don't seem to be there anymore.
So is that really what you're wanting to talk about today? A way to find gaps, or to think more long term? If you had the gaps, what the long term would be like? What you'd like it to be like?
I don't know, that's a good question. I suppose on one side it's going to be, the short term is going to be finding gaps, inevitably, I guess. But there's a kind of longer term, is where's all this taking me?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
what am I doing?
Yeah.
What's all this for?
Yeah.
And
Well, you could see this meeting as giving you a gap, couldn't you?
well, it certainly is that.
So you could look ahead a bit and stop and catch your breath and look to the more long term.
Yeah.
Would that seem a helpful
Yes, I think
way
it might.
to use the meeting?
Yeah, I think it might. Yeah, I think it might do.
So here we are. Your desk is clear. Your diary's closed.
If only.
Right. Yeah. And you're wanting to look ahead a bit beyond this immediate busy where you are at the moment.
Yeah. Yes.
So where do you want to start with that?
I guess there's a number of things that are sort of going on at the same time with me, I suppose. There's a combination of this seemingly ever-increasing workload in the work situation. And I suppose sort of in my personal life there's a sort of changing dynamic in my family, which is perhaps, I don't know whether it's related or it's just something that's happening at the same time, but you know, I've got one of my kids has left home now, and the other one's sort of heading in that direction, and the dynamic of the house has altered.
Yeah.
And maybe it's time to say, okay, you know, there's my work, which is important to me, and there's my home and family life, which is changing. What do I need to do? What might I do to sort of head into a future which is going to satisfy the kind of things that I want to do, I suppose. Some of the work-related projects that I've got come along. They're kind of new and exciting, but that doesn't last for very long.
Well, the excitement,
Yeah.
the newness of them.
Yes.
Right.
I mean, I can remember in
Yeah.
the past when you get this project and you go, wow, and it sustained
Yeah.
you for quite a while.
Yeah.
But now it's kind of,
Things come and go.
well,
They don't
the
fire you
project's
up
still
quite the same
there.
way.
You get fired up initially, but
Yeah.
then it, you know,
It doesn't last.
mm,
Right. Right.
I don't know what that's about,
Yeah.
really.
Yeah. So you're talking about two major areas, aren't you? There's what the situation is at work.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You feel too busy,
Mm-hmm.
and it sounds as if you're not quite as enthusiastic
Mm-hmm.
as you used to be.
Mm-hmm.
Things don't grab you quite so much. And then you've talked about your situation at home with your family growing up
Yeah.
and the changes there.
Yeah.
That's quite a big change, isn't it?
It's huge.
You know, one of your children leaving home.
Yeah. The house is quiet.
The house is quiet. Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
not loud music coming from one of the
Yeah.
rooms.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a bit odd.
Yeah.
I guess so. I mean, there's also the sort of, I suppose, financial considerations for the future, sort of balancing up the needs that I will have in the future financially, and financing my kids. One being financed at the moment.
You've mentioned quite a few things already,
Yeah.
Bob, and we've not been talking very long.
No.
but you've brought in an awful lot. I wonder if it would be useful if we summarised
Yeah.
what we've talked about so far.
Okay. Right. There's the work situation, which is increasingly greater workload, if you like. Doesn't perhaps hold the challenge that it may have done before. It's changing family situation, and sort of mixed up with that is a financial considerations of, you know, the need to finance the daughter who's away. I guess I'm stuck in a way.
You feel stuck in all that.
Yes.
Yeah, there's quite a lot that you've mentioned, isn't it?
Yes.
Work and home, and
Yeah.
changes at work and changes at home. So it seems like you're not enjoying work very much at the moment, Bob.
On one level, work is okay, in that the people that I work with are good fun, and we talk and we socialise, and you know, there's that little buzz that you get from the people. But on a level which is kind of inside me, it's, I often get in there and think, you know, the alarm goes off in the morning, and I get up and then I go there, and there it is, and it's to do again. It's that feeling of, you know, what am I doing? Why bother with this? Really, is this really what I'm about? And yet the stuckness is that You kind of have to,
Right.
financially,
Right.
you know.
Yeah. Yeah. You've got to generate the income for your family and
Yeah,
all the things you're doing in your
Yeah,
family, when
yeah,
your daughter's growing up
yeah.
and so on. Yeah. And it's not like you to say, why bother, or you know, because you're usually such an enthusiastic and conscientious
I think
person
so.
at work.
Usually
Yeah.
pretty keen.
Yeah.
Um,
You catch the early train and
oh yeah, get in early, all that
Yeah,
sort of stuff.
yeah.
Do the business.
Yeah.
Yeah, stay late, etc.
yeah.
Put in quite a bit of effort, and I still do, kind of.
Mm.
But it doesn't quite,
Mm.
you know, it doesn't feel.
And that's not the way you like to be at work, is it?
No,
You don't like to do things that way.
no, no,
Right.
no.
You do want to bother.
Yes. Because has always been an important part of my life, stimulating and exciting and enthusiasm, and it's part of me. It's not just a job, it never has been. Never, really. And it's kind of becoming that now.
Mm.
I've not really thought about all this before. It's just kind of all coming to the surface. And the fact that we're sitting here talking,
Yeah.
focusing on it, is making it come out.
Come out, yeah, yeah. So is it like you can't be at work the way you want to be?
Quite
yeah.
often. This is this is a kind of a revelation for me.
Right.
Thinking,
What's the revelation?
well,
What's the key bit for you?
what does it mean that my behaviour is altering in the workplace in a way which I'm not happy with?
Yeah.
Why am I feeling irritable?
Mm. Mm.
And it's thinly disguised quite a lot of the time.
Mm.
I'm thinking something's got to change, and what is it that's got to change? And it's got to be something to do with my work, I guess.
Yeah.
So then the next question is, how do I go about doing that?
You'd like to change things at work. You'd like to change the way you feel and behave at work.
Yes. Yeah. This has been going on for... Have you noticed it? I mean, quite often you pop in.
Yeah. I've noticed that you seem busy
Mm-hmm.
and a bit distracted with how busy you are.
Mm-hmm.
There isn't quite the same bounce in your step.
No. No. There's a bit of resentment there.
Right, you've got some resentment.
Which is
about-
mixed up with the why bother.
Yeah. And you'd like to change that.
Yeah.
Right.
But I'm not quite sure how to do that.
Yeah.
What are the options? What's there?
So you've mentioned those two things, the workload and dealing with people and how people are with you.
Mm-hmm. It's not a case, is it, of okay, okay, Bob, go and change your behaviour.
No, it isn't.
It's something else that needs to
You want to start somewhere else. You want to focus on something else.
maybe. What are the other options? Stay where I am and put up with it. Change something within where I am. Go somewhere different. Get another job.
That's thinking on quite a big scale, isn't it? That would be quite a major move to think of a completely new job in a new place. Does it feel as if what you dislike about work at the moment is that big?
It's been going on for a while.
Does it? Yeah. So does applying for another job seem a realistic option?
Well, it's a possibility,
Right.
I guess.
Yeah.
It's a possibility.
Yeah. So what do you see as the options in the shorter term?
In the shorter term,
Yeah.
one obvious thing to do would be to try to seek ways of kind of minimising or managing the workload, which might require some kind of attitude change from me towards it. But that's difficult because it's built up with the way I perceive the bosses, in a sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I have a feeling there's a group of us, there's about 3 or 4 of us who feel that we actually run the place. And we're kind of classed as middle to senior management, if you like.
So you feel, Bob, you're doing more than your fair share.
Yeah?
You're
Yes.
you're not recognised for what you do.
Yes.
You don't feel you're recognised. And you're treated in ways that you don't like.
Yeah.
And you end up feeling resentful.
Yeah. Yeah. That's about the size of it, I think.
Is that what it feels like?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
It does.
Yeah. So we've got a bit clearer about the situation you're in and what's unsatisfactory about it for you.
Sure. Sure. Yeah.
And we need to move on now to what you'd like to do about it.
Yeah. the difficult bit.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you've mentioned the possibility of looking at jobs elsewhere, quite a major change, and that's perhaps something that we could talk about in a future meeting.
That's an option I'd like to explore, but it can't, by its very nature, won't happen immediately.
No, it's a long-term possibility.
Longer
isn't
term,
it?
but it might be something that we could, as you say, talk about
Yeah.
another time.
Yeah. Is there anything in your situation at the moment at work that you feel you could make better? That you could change in some way?
I feel like I'd like to clear my diary and just not go in for a fortnight.
Right. Yeah.
Frankly.
Yeah. You feel the need for a bit of a break?
That's not really a possibility. So you have to be kind of realistic about it, I suppose.
What scope is there for finding a gap in your diary?
Yeah. There's a possibility at the end of this month, perhaps beginning of next month, that I might actually be able to say clear.
Right.
Just wipe things out
Yes.
and move them elsewhere.
Yeah.
Just to have a kind of pause. Whether that would change anything, I feel that I need that.
Yeah.
It won't necessarily change anything the way, it won't necessarily change how I feel other people treat me, but it may make me feel better about it.
Okay. And
possibly.
Yeah. And we're using this meeting as a gap, as we said before, and that's how you wanted to use this time.
Yeah.
And it looks as if there may be a possibility of you creating
Yeah.
another gap of maybe a day or two,
Uh-huh.
plus a weekend.
Yes. Which would be helpful.
Which would be helpful. Yeah.
I mean, I can look in the old book
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
see what can be
Yeah.
done.
So one question that comes up, if you've got a gap
Uh-huh.
at the end of the month,
Uh-huh.
how you would use that? How you would use that time?
Oh, right. That's pushing me a bit, isn't it?
Well, you wanted to take
yeah.
the longer view.
Sure. Sure.
And
No, I
you
mean,
want-
it's a fair thing to ask. I kind of thought, get a gap in the diary, sort of have a break, that's it,
Yeah.
great.
Well, that's one option. That's one way
Yes.
to use a gap, isn't it? To
Sure.
have a break,
Uh-huh.
to spend some time at home, and to spend some time away from work,
Yeah,
just to sort of clear your head.
sure. I suppose one way to do it would be to have a break and do what I usually do when I have a break, is go off walking somewhere, take to the hills, That's a possibility.
You mentioned this small group of colleagues who, you're all of a like mind, that you feel as if you carry more than your weight.
Right.
I wonder if there's anything you could do with that group about this.
Oh, right. Like, get together with them, perhaps?
Like, get together with them, and today here you've sort of become a bit clearer. I was just wondering if there'd be any value in,
Because I guess
as a group,
these thoughts that I have don't just necessarily emanate from me. They come from other colleagues also complaining.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and
so
you
kind
pick
of
some of
catch it
that
off
up.
each other.
You catch it off each other, yeah.
And maybe if I got
Yeah.
those people together and we said, look, let's just talk about what's going on here and then think collectively what we might do about it.
So maybe a starting point is for you to have a meeting with this small group that picks up on some of the things we've been talking about today.
Yeah.
How does that sound?
I think there's a real need for that.
Right.
Thank you.
So
Where'd that come from?
So
Yes.
could that come in the gap that you've got coming up, these few days of
It's possible.
when your diary might be lighter?
It's possible. Could
Yeah. Yeah.
talk to these people.
Yeah.
Perhaps later on tomorrow or something. I mean, in a sense, if that is made right, the longer term plan of moving away is not such an urgency.
That begins to recede.
Because fundamentally, I quite enjoy where I am.
Right.
It's just that
Yeah.
that enjoyment has,
Yeah.
has gone, if you like.
Yeah. So do you want to summarise what you're going to do in the short term?
You want me to do that? Summarise?
Well, we could go through it together, couldn't
Okay,
we?
go on then. Yeah. Okay.
The first thing is lightening your diary
If
at
possible.
the end of the month, if possible.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that will make it possible for you to hold this meeting,
Yeah.
hold a meeting
Yes.
with your colleagues.
Sure. So I think, I need to talk to these people, ask them if the sort of whinging that they're doing, along with me, is part of the same problem, and we need to understand that, and perhaps collectively we could do something about that.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Well, we've talked things through, Bob.
Uh-huh.
Covered a lot of ground.
Sure. Yeah.
And you're now in a position of having some quite specific things to do.
Yes. Yeah.
And you and I have got topics to discuss at future meetings.
Yes.
Like the possibility of applying for a new job altogether.
Sure.
And you may want to meet again to look at this short-term option that you're
Yeah.
going to explore of,
Yeah.
of working with this group.
It would be good actually if we could meet, for me to kind of rehearse that a little bit with you, if you wouldn't
okay.
mind.
Yeah.
If you'd
Yeah.
be all right with that.
Yeah.
Maybe if we did that
Yeah.
in perhaps some, a week's
Yeah.
time or something, 10
Yeah.
days' time,
Yeah.
perhaps next week.
Yeah.
Would,
Well,
that,
if you-
would that suit you?
Yeah, once you've spoken to your colleagues, if you get back in touch with me, we'll find a time to do that.
Okay. All right.
Meanwhile, we'll draw the meeting
Yeah.
to a close there. Does
Okay.
that feel all right to leave it there?
It does actually,
Yeah.
and I mean, thank you, because things have come into my head which weren't there previously,
Right,
and it seems a
right.
bit clearer
Yeah.
now.
And you feel you're taking something away